Today we are celebrating one of the very pleasing and auspicious festivals in the service of Lord Krishna. It is called Chandan Yatra. In the holy Dham, Sri Vrindavan, throughout many of the temples, we find this festival celebrated with tremendous enthusiasm. It is one of the most popular of all festivals in Vrindavan, where the beautiful Murti of Lord Sri Krishna is completely covered with chandan, sandalwood pulp. The idea of this festival is that when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased, the goal of life is achieved. Because the constitutional position of every soul is the eternal servant of Krishna. We are created only for the pleasure of Krishna. When we reverse our position and try to be the enjoyer rather than enjoyed, that is the root cause of all sorrow and bondage within the complexities of material existence. So this process of worshipping the deity is an ancient science, and the festivals that celebrate the various occasions of the deity's pastimes are most essential to observe. Srila Prabhupada was very much anxious that in all of his temples throughout the world these wonderful festivals be celebrated with tremendous amount of enthusiasm and devotion. It was Srila Sanatana Goswami who especially explained to us how these festivals should be performed and the proper scientific process by which we worship the deity in the temple as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Today I would like to speak very briefly about that wonderful pastime in which Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu empowered Sri Sanatana Goswami to give us these great literatures by which we can understand step by step how to make spiritual progress on the path of devotional service. In our narration of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's transcendental pastimes, we left off where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had just instructed Srila Rupa Goswami in Prayag at the holy confluence of Jamuna, Ganga, Saraswati. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued his journey from Vrindavan back to Jagannath Puri, and he came to the holy place of Varanasi. There he was staying in the home of Chandrasekhar Acharya, and he was taking his prasad at the house of Tapan Mishra, whose beloved son was none other than the great Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta. It was around this time, as you remember, that Sanatana Goswami, he decided to take leave from his very, very high political post in the government of the Nawab Hussain Shah. And the way he did it is, after Rupa Goswami left, Sanatana Goswami simply stayed home to have Kirtan and study Srimad Bhagavatam amongst great Brahmins and devotees. And the Nawab Hussain Shah, he kept getting messages that Sanatana Goswami was sick. So he sent his royal physician, who came back and reported to the Nawab that he's not sick, he's just having Bhagavad Katha all day. So the Nawab came to the residence of Sanatana Goswami as they were in the midst of a beautiful katha of Krishna's Lila, and he was very angry. And Sanatana Goswami very clearly told him, I cannot help you any longer to cause harm to others just for your political motivations. So Sanatana Goswami was put in prison. And then the Nawab Hussain Shah went to conquer the land of Orissa with all of his armies. Sanatana Goswami, while in prison, received a letter. It was from his brother, Srila Rupa Goswami, telling him that he is going to Vrindavan and that he had deposited many thousands of gold coins with the grocer, which he should use to somehow or other get out of prison and meet him in Vrindavan. So Sanatana Goswami was very expert. One day he told to the jailkeeper that you are a very saintly person, and also you have very deep knowledge of the Holy Scriptures. And you know that the greatest pious act of devotion to God is to release another person from bondage. So here are 5,000 gold coins. Please perform a very meritorious and religious deed by releasing me from the bondage of this prison. The jailkeeper was thinking that, yes, obviously I am a saintly person, and I do know the Scriptures very well, and I do want to release you from the clutches of bondage, but the Nawab will punish me. What will he say if you are not here when he returns? Sanatana Goswami replied, he said, I want to go on holy pilgrimage to Mecca. Therefore, you will get great blessings of the Lord if you release me. All you have to do is tell the Nawab that I went to pass stool with my chains and with the ball and chain that keep me as a prisoner. And I jumped in the Ganges and went under the waters and drowned and could not be found anywhere. And then he gave him another 7,000 gold coins. And seeing all these gold coins, the jailkeeper became very religious-minded. And he said, certainly, I will perform this virtuous act. And he cut the chains from Sanatana Goswami, and Sanatana Goswami escaped. But he could not go by the main roads because he was a prisoner who had escaped. So he began to travel along with his servant and associate, whose name was Ishan. And they came to a place called Patada. Patada is a very hilly tract of land filled with jungles, and it is famous actually even to this day as a place of dacoits and robbers and thieves and all sorts of questionable people. And it was also very, very difficult with wild animals, and it was so easy to get lost in the mire of these woods and jungles and hills. So Sanatana Goswami at one inn stopped, and there was a landholder there, and he asked if he could give him residence there that night, and in the middle of the night if he could take him through the as a guide through the jungles. So this innkeeper had a palmist who was visiting him, and the palmist whispered in the ear of the innkeeper that this man has 8 gold coins. So the innkeeper was thinking, very good. I will take very good care of him so he gains trust in me, and then I will kill him and take all of his wealth. So that was the plan. So he started, the innkeeper said, here is nice vegetables and grains and fruits. You prepare nice prasad for yourself, and here is a nice room, and what else do you need, sir? Sanatana Goswami was fasting for over 2 days, so he took his meals after cooking. Because he was a very high official in the political government of the Nawab Hussain Shah, he was experienced in the art of diplomacy. So he understood. There is a saying, too much devotion is the sign of a thief. Why is this innkeeper so nice to me? Why is he so polite and and making so much nice service? I'm just a mendicant and a escaped convict. So he began to think, and he asked his servant Ishan, "Did you carry any money with you?" He said, "Yes, I have 7 gold coins." Sanatana Goswami chastised him. "Why have you brought this death knell along with you?" Death knell means, according to the dictionary, at the time when a person is about to be executed and die, they ring a bell announcing the death. So he said, "You give me those coins." And then he went right to the innkeeper and told him, "I have these 7 gold coins. I want you to keep them. And just take me across the tract of land." And the innkeeper, he said, "I am very impressed. You are so honest. You are willing to give me this money. I'm so happy you're about to give me this money, because I'll tell you, I knew you had 8 coins. And I was going to kill you tonight. But you gave this money to me just before I performed that terrible act. But actually, I'm so pleased with you, I don't want your money. Just take it. I will carry you across this tract of land." And Sanatana Goswami said, "Please take it. If you do not take it, someone else will kill me to take it." So he gave him the 7 coins, and then the innkeeper gave 4 guards, and those guards helped him to go across the jungles and the mountains. And when they came across that very dangerous part, Sanatana Goswami asked Ishan, "Do you have any more money?" And Ishan said, "I have 1 more gold coin." And Lord Chaitanya said, "You keep this gold coin and you go home." So Ishan went home. And then Sanatana Goswami continued his journey alone. And then he came to the town of Hajipur. While he was there, his sister's husband, whose name was Shrikanta, happened to also be in Hajipur, because he also worked for the government. And the governor gave him hundreds and thousands of gold coins to buy horses from Hajipur and dispatch them to various places. So he was a very, very wealthy man with a very high position. Of course, Sanatana Goswami was the wealthiest man with one of the highest positions, but he had recently forsaken it all for the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So while Shrikanta was doing his business, he was sitting on a raised platform, and he saw from a distance his brother-in-law, Sanatan. And he looked, he was wearing the torn clothing of a prisoner, and he really looked like he was in very bad material condition. So later on, privately, Srikanta went and found Sanatan Goswami and told him, "Stay here with me. I will give you whatever wealth you need. I will give you residence. I will give you everything." Sanatan Goswami said, "I will not stay here for even one more minute. I will go to Vrindavan to seek out Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu." So Srikanta gave him a very, very valuable blanket as a gift. And Sanatan Goswami, in order to reciprocate with the offering of the love of his relative, he accepted the blanket and he continued his journey. And he came to Varanasi. And while he was there, he heard the news that Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had already been to Vrindavan. He had left Vrindavan, and now he was in Varanasi on his way back to Jagannath Puri. So Sanatan Goswami went to the house of Chandrasekhar, where Lord Chaitanya was staying. And while there, he sat just outside the door, quietly. And Lord Chaitanya, who is the super soul in everyone's heart, he is Krishna himself, he understood. And he told Chandrasekhar, "There is a very, very great Vaishnava outside of your door. Please bring him to me." So Chandrasekhar went out and he looked around and he came back and he told Lord Chaitanya, "There is no great Vaishnava saint out there." Lord Chaitanya asked, "Is anyone out there?" He said, "There is one Muslim mendicant." Lord Chaitanya said, "Bring him here." So Chandrasekhar went out and he saw this person who was just in tattered clothes, unshaven, and he brought him in. And just when they came into the courtyard of his home, Lord Chaitanya himself personally got up, and with great, great eagerness he approached Sanatan Goswami and began to embrace him. And as they embraced, Lord Chaitanya began to cover Sanatan Goswami's whole body with tears of his love. And Sanatan Goswami, in reciprocation, was weeping in utter humility to receive the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And Sanatan Goswami said, "Please do not touch me. I am contaminated. I am the lowest of the low." And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in great love, replied, "I am touching you for my own purification." And then Lord Chaitanya began to recite various beautiful verses. That a Vaishnava is so dear to Lord Krishna that it does not matter from what family, from what caste, what kind of background one may have had. If one surrenders to Krishna and takes the holy name of Krishna, Krishna manifests through that person in such a wonderful way that just by seeing him, just by touching him, one becomes cleansed of all one's sins. Lord Chaitanya began to offer these beautiful prayers from the Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures describing the glories of the Lord's devotees. How great saintly devotees who have taken shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. They are holy places personified. All the holy places are contained within their feet. And when they go to the holy places, they are what make the holy places so holy. And even if one is born in a very high qualified Brahmin family, with all the qualities of a Brahmin, if he is not a devotee of the Lord, he cannot deliver himself, what to speak of others. But even if a person is born in a family of the lowest caste of chandalas, if he is chanting the holy names of Krishna sincerely, he is not only perfectly delivered, but he can become the spiritual master for the entire world. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sat Sanatana Goswami down, and with his own beautiful, loving, golden hands, he began to clean Sanatana Goswami's body in great love. Then Tapan Mishra came, and Lord Chaitanya introduced both Chandrasekhar Acharya and Tapan Mishra. And Tapan Mishra invited Sanatana Goswami for prasad. But first Lord Chaitanya told Chandrasekhar, you should make him clean and get him shaved. Because at that time he had beard and long hair and mustache. So Chandrasekhar took him and got his head shaved and his face shaved very nicely, like a Vaishnava sadhu. And then he wanted to give him, Tapan Mishra actually came and wanted to give him some new clothes. But Sanatana Goswami said, I cannot accept new clothes. Give me one of your old dhotis that you have already worn out. So on his request, Tapan Mishra gave Sanatana Goswami one old dhoti. And Sanatana Goswami began to tear it up. And he made it into 2 full sets of outer cloths and 2 sets of underwear out of one dhoti. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took Sanatana Goswami to the sea to take bath. And while coming back, he invited him to take prasad with him. Lord Chaitanya said, let Sanatana come and sit with me and eat prasad. But knowing Sanatana Goswami's great sense of humility, Tapan Mishra replied that he has some other duties to perform just now. He will take little later. And then after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu finished his prasad, Tapan Mishra gave all the Maha Prasad of Lord Chaitanya's plate to Sri Sanatana Goswami. Then one Maharashtrian Brahmin came and invited Sanatana Goswami, please, you take prasad at my home and honor it every day. And Sanatana Goswami, this I cannot do. He said, I will perform madhukari. I cannot eat my meals at one house, but I will go and take little bit as a beggar from so many houses. And when Lord Chaitanya heard that this great multi-billionaire living in palatial palaces with literally tens and thousands of servants, the whole kingdom, the whole government was under his command. He had boatloads of wealth. But now he was living so simple, just wearing some old used clothes as a kopan and just begging as a simple mendicant door to door, taking a little from everyone. He was very, very pleased. But Lord Chaitanya repeatedly was looking at Sanatana Goswami's new blanket. So Sanatana Goswami was thinking that Lord Chaitanya does not approve of my new blanket. So he devised a plan. And he went to Ganga, where there was a bathing ghat. And there was a Bengali mendicant who had an old torn quilt that he was washing. And Sanatana Goswami said to him, please exchange your old torn quilt for my new valuable blanket. And the mendicant thought, why are you playing jokes on me? Why would you want to do this? Please do not make fun of me. Sanatana Goswami explained, no, I am not playing jokes. I am very serious. You take this valuable blanket and give me your old worthless quilt. So he gladly exchanged. So Sanatana Goswami returned to Lord Chaitanya with this old tattered quilt over his shoulder. And Lord Chaitanya said, where is your valuable blanket? And Sanatana Goswami told him the whole story, and Lord Chaitanya was very happy. He said, this is truly the spirit of one in the renounced order of life. If you are doing madhukari, going house to house, begging for food, and you're wearing valuable blanket, people will laugh at you. Now, your last drop of material attachment has been removed. At that time, Lord Chaitanya said to Sanatana Goswami that Krishna has shown his special mercy to you. He has saved you from the dark pit of material attachments. He has saved you from the hell called Maharorava. And he has given you his causeless mercy. And Sanatana Goswami replied, I do not know what is Krishna or what is his causeless mercy. But I know that you, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by your mercy, you are saving me. And then Sanatana Goswami placed a piece of straw between his teeth. And in great humility, he offered his dandavat obeisances at the lotus feet of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And with tears of sincerity in his eyes and folded palms, he began to speak to Lord Chaitanya. He said, I was born in a low family, and all my associates are very low-class men. I myself am fallen and the lowest amongst men. Indeed, I have passed my whole life in the well of sinful materialism. I do not know what is beneficial for me or what is detrimental. Nonetheless, in ordinary dealings, people call me a great scholar. And I am such a fool that I am thinking that what they say is correct. Out of your causeless mercy, you have delivered me from the materialistic path. Now, by the same causeless mercy, please tell me, what is my duty? Who am I? Why do the threefold miseries always give me trouble? If I do not know this, how will I be benefited? Actually, I do not know how to inquire about the goal of life and the process for obtaining it. Being merciful upon me, please explain to me all of these truths. Sanatana Goswami approached Lord Chaitanya with such sincerity and humility that he melted the heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. At one time when Sanatana Goswami was speaking like this, so sincerely from his heart, Lord Chaitanya began to cry, and he embraced him and he said, please stop speaking in this way, for your humility is breaking my heart. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu pronounced to the whole world, it is this type of humility alone that attracts Krishna. There is no other way to attract Krishna. This type of humility literally will purchase Krishna. Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, Tad vidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshana. in this wonderful pastime we find the perfect illustration of this instruction, how to approach the spiritual master in a most submissive mood, inquiring with a deep desire to understand the truth. Sanatana Goswami portrayed through his appeal to Lord Chaitanya that this whole life is utterly useless and futile if we do not know who we are, why we are suffering, what is the goal of life, and how to achieve it. Human existence is specifically meant for this purpose. And when a devotee sincerely wants to know the answers to these questions, it is Krishna from within the heart that guides that devotee to the saintly persons and to the spiritual master to enlighten him. Lord Chaitanya said to Sanatana Goswami that you are already a saintly person. You already know the answers to all of these questions. You are beyond the threefold miseries of birth and death. But it is the nature of a saintly person, out of humility, to inquire about these subject matters. And you are strictly adhering to the principles of a great saintly person. So now, Sanatana Goswami, I will explain to you the highest and most sublime truths of the goal of life and how to achieve it. Lord Chaitanya began Sanatana Shiksha with the famous verse, Jivera Swarupoy Krishnera Dityadas. This is the beginning of Lord Chaitanya's philosophy. That the spirit soul, the jiva, is the eternal servant of Krishna. Achintya Veda Veda Tattva. He is simultaneously one with Krishna and different than Krishna. The spirit soul is one in quality with Krishna, but different in quantity. And Lord Chaitanya gave the example, just like the light of the sun and the rays within that light are qualitatively of the same nature as the sun. They are giving light and they are giving heat. But quantitatively, the spark of sunlight is always subordinate as part and parcel of the sun planet, and is therefore always subordinate to the sun planet. Lord Chaitanya went on to explain that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has three energies. There is the Chit Shakti, the spiritual energy. There is the Maya Shakti, or the material energy, and the Tatashta Shakti, or the marginal energy. And the spirit soul, the Jivatma, is of this Tatashta Shakti. We are always situated under the powers of either the material or spiritual energies. And the Jiva Atma has the free will, the independent choice to either surrender to Maya or to surrender to Krishna. And when the spirit soul is in his constitutional position in surrender to Krishna, then that soul, as the eternal servant of the Lord in the spiritual world, experiences eternal bliss. But when the spirit soul tries to take the position of Krishna, tries to be the predominator rather than the prenominated, tries to be the enjoyer rather than the enjoyed, tries to be the master rather than the servant, then he is put under the subjugation of material energy. And within this material energy, the spirit soul is always looking for enjoyment, making so many various plans to try to avoid suffering. Within this material existence, there are 14 planetary systems. There are lower planets and heavenly planets, and this earth is a middle planet. And sometimes the spirit soul, by pious activities, is elevated to the heavenly planets to enjoy incredible amounts of physical and mental pleasures. But then when those pleasures or the karma are expired, he again comes down, and if he commits a sinful activity, he is plunged into the hellish conditions of life. And Lord Chaitanya explained that the living entity going up and down in this material world is like a prisoner who is captive by the king. And the king has his executioners punish him by taking his head and putting it down into the water of a river. And that person is suffering and suffering and suffering because he cannot breathe. And when he's just on the verge of death, they pull his head out of the water. And he's thinking, oh, this is so nice. This is so pleasurable. Just to see the land and the sky and the trees and to see my family and to breathe nice air. And just as he's enjoying like anything, he's plunged down again, pushed down. He's struggling and struggling and struggling helplessly, can't breathe. Then he's pulled up and pushed down and pulled up and pushed down. This is what the pleasures and pains of the material world are all about. The pleasures of this world are not really pleasure at all. Real pleasure means ecstasy of loving Krishna. But somehow or other, the absence of pain, the absence of boredom and loneliness is considered to be great happiness. Just to be somehow pulled out from that river with your head for a few seconds is considered a very great attainment. But sure enough, it is just a matter of time till you are pushed down again. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained, this is the condition of every foolish spirit soul trying to enjoy within this material world. And the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, they are gunas, they are like ropes that keep one tightly bound, and no one can possibly escape them. Unless, by the mercy of Krishna, one comes in contact with a saintly person. When a sadhu shows his mercy to the conditioned soul and instructs them in the science of devotional service, through that process a person can be once and for all liberated, and one's original consciousness, blissful Krishna consciousness, can be revived. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained that to receive real knowledge and the mercy that comes with that knowledge of the Lord, one has to receive it in three forms. Through the Vedas, the revealed scriptures, through the spiritual master and the saintly persons, and by the super soul within one's heart. And this is most essential to understand, because the truth is revealed by God Himself in the Vedas, in the scriptures of the world. And there is no other means by which we can receive the truth unless we understand it directly from God Himself. And the Vedas are the Word of God. And the spiritual master is that person, tad vijnanartham sugurum eva abhigachet, who explains the Vedas in such a way according to the system of disciplic succession by which we know how to properly understand it and how to practically apply these teachings to our daily life. Therefore, it is essential to accept a spiritual master who is purely repeating the knowledge of the Vedas in disciplic succession. But that is not enough. Based on our sincerity, it is the Paramatma, the super soul within the heart, that gives us the ability to understand the Guru, that gives us the ability to understand what the Vedas speak. Sometimes people come to a proper spiritual master who's presenting the absolute truth, but they do not understand They are not sincere. They do not follow, because Krishna forbids them from entering into that mystery of understanding. So based on our sincerity, based on the humility in which we approach Guru and the great saintly persons, Krishna reciprocates by giving us, by empowering us with the intelligence to understand and with the ability to follow these teachings. Lord Chaitanya explained that through the Vedas there are essentially 3 subjects that are explained. One is to understand who is Krishna, what is the absolute truth, and what is our relationship with Krishna. This is called Sambandha. The next subject matter of the Vedas is how to practically apply these truths to our daily life through serving Krishna. By utilizing our mind, our senses, the facility that God has given us in God's service rather than our own egoistic purposes. The path of devotional service, the process of achieving perfection, is called abhideya. And through purifying our hearts by the 9 processes of devotional service, beginning with hearing, chanting, and always remembering the Lord, one gradually attains, by the mercy of the Lord, the ultimate goal of life, which is love of Godhead. Sarvadharman parityaja mam ekam sharanam vraja. Aham tvam sarva papibhyo mokshayishyami masaja. Surrender to Krishna. It is that surrender to Krishna that is the true perfection of all of our desires for happiness. Sambandha, abhideya, prayojana. Lord Chaitanya explained these 3 principles very simply. Krishna, service to Krishna, and love for Krishna. That is essentially all the Vedas are talking about. Krishna, service to Krishna, and love for Krishna. And he explained that this love for Krishna, these 3 principles, Krishna, service to Krishna, and love for Krishna, the path of bhakti, are the 3 most precious jewels, the greatest treasure and the ultimate wealth in all of creation. And it is the nature of the soul to have this wealth. But somehow or other we have lost it. We have forgotten. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained a simple story in this regard. He described once there was a very, very poor man who was in great distress. And an astrologer, whose name was Saravagya, he approached that poor man and he said, "You are so distressed due to your poverty, but I have come with news that your father have left for you a very, very valuable treasure full of wealth. But somehow or other, your father left in a distant place, and you do not know where it is. But it is right here. I will show you where this great treasure is." Lord Chaitanya told Sanatana Goswami, similarly, every spirit soul in this material world is in distress. If you are intelligent, you know you're in distress. If you are illusioned by material energy, you think you're happy. Pitiful state. To think you're happy in forgetfulness of Krishna is a great, great illusion. But at least to understand that this world is a place of misery. People are dying all around us. People are in disease all around us. Padam padam yadvi padam natesham. There is danger at every step. And with every moment we are coming closer to death, and yet we are thinking we are happy. Everyone is in a distressful situation. Therefore, the Vedic literatures, like this astrologer, have been sent and spoken by the Lord to tell us where our real treasure is. The astrologer told the poor man that if you go to the southern side, if you dig for the treasure there, wasps and drones will rise from the ground and sting you and bite you and cause you great suffering. And if you go to the western side, a terrible ghost will be there to bring disturbance to your mind and not allow you to find the treasure. And if you go to the northern side, there is a big black snake that will devour you. To try to find the treasure of life through fruitive activities, by trying to be elevated, by worshiping the demigods for material prosperity. But all such material prosperity through the process of karmakanda, the result is wasps and drones will sting us and bite us. Because the fruits of all such fortune are temporary. You become attached to something, even if you do pious activities, even if you are very charitable, even if you worship the demigods through various pujas and yagyas. The best they'll give you is material prosperity. Abrahma bhuvanaloka punaravartanorjana. But it is all temporary. And when your karma runs out, it is taken away, and the pain is like the stinging of wasps and biting of drones. So do not dig on the southern side. And on the western side, that is the path of speculative knowledge, jnanakanda, by which through so much speculation and mental intellectual gymnastics, trying to understand neti neti, who am I, aham brahmasmi, and all these other juggleries of words, our mind just becomes disturbed with the ghost of mental speculation. And this yaksha prevents us from understanding where our real treasure is. And on the northern side, that is the mystic yoga process. By so much meditation and so much manipulation of our life airs, and by so much tapasya, we ultimately try to merge into the oneness of Brahman, and that merging into the oneness of Brahman is like being eaten by a black serpent. You lose your own conception of your spiritual identity, and there is no hope in that situation of finding the real treasure. But the path of bhakti is on the eastern side. It is very simple. Sarvagya said to the poor man, you just take a little bit of dirt from the eastern side and you will find the pot of your treasure. The real wealth that will give you eternal joy and ecstatic love for Krishna. And in that ecstatic love, we understand the all-attractive form of the personality of Godhead. And Lord Chaitanya began to explain the nature of Krishna's form. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. That Krishna's form is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. He is the supreme of all lords. He is the cause of all causes, the source of everything that exists, and the ultimate goal of life. In the Bhagavatam it explains, Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yajganamatbayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabjate. That the absolute truth has three features. Brahman is the impersonal, all-pervading aspect of the Lord. Paramatma is the localized feature of the Lord within everyone's heart. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained that this Brahman, that is the goal of the impersonalists, the impersonal aspect of the supreme truth, is a partial realization of the Lord. It is the spiritual light that is emanating from the body of Krishna. And this spiritual light emanating from Krishna's body is permeating all the material and spiritual worlds. It is everywhere. It is all pervading. And the Lord also enters into the heart of every living being, who is the knower of past, present, and future, who is the guide of everyone according to their particular sincerity and desires. And that is Paramatma. But the original source of the Brahman and Paramatma is Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Krishna. And to understand the spiritual nature of his form is the highest realization of transcendence. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to explain how the form of the Lord as Krishna is the source of all incarnations, the source of everything that exists. And then he began to explain that this form of Krishna enters within this material existence in so many ways, at so many times, just to attract our hearts back to his loving service. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu very, very deeply, categorically, and scientifically explained the various expansions, incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, both in the spiritual world as well as the material world. He explained that essentially there are three categories of the Lord's expansions: Swayam Rupa, Tad Ekatma Rupa, and Avesh Rupa. And then he began to explain how Lord Krishna expands himself in the spiritual world as Balaram of Goloka Vrindavan. Balaram expands himself as the Chatur Vyuha, Shankarshan, Aniruddha, Pradyumna, and Vasudev. And how through those expansions Lord Narayan appears in the various Vaikuntha planets. And from Narayan there is a secondary Chaturvyuha. And from Shankarshan, the Purusha avatars come into existence. The Purusha avatars are those avatars that are the ultimate creators of material existence. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains that the topmost abode is called Goloka Dham. Below Goloka Dham is Hari Dham, which is the residence of Narayan in Vaikuntha. Below that is Mahesh Dham, the eternal abode of Lord Shiva. And that is all within the Paravyoma, or the spiritual sky. And then there is a river called Viraja. Viraja is a body of water which begun from the perspiration of the Lord himself, that is the border between the material world and spiritual world. And on the other shore of that river called Viraja is Devi Dham. Devi Dham is material existence, which is under the supervision of the Lord's own energy called Durga. And how is this material existence created? Karanodakshai Vishnu, or Mahavishnu, lies within this Viraja, or causal ocean. And he creates material nature. It emanates from him, material nature. And actually, he never touches material nature, because he is always transcendental. He glances at material nature, and through his glance, all living entities who are forgetful of their constitutional position as the servants of the Lord are impregnated through his glance into the womb of material nature. And then Mahavishnu exhales, and through his exhalation, innumerable universes come out from the pores of his bodies. And within each of those universes, Mahavishnu expands himself as Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. And when he enters into the universe, there's nothing there. It's completely dark. So he begins to perspire. And through his perspiration, an ocean covers half the universe. And he lays in that ocean on the bed of Shesha. And as he's laying there, a lotus flower comes from his navel, and Brahma is born on top of that lotus. And the stem of the lotus contains all the 14 worlds. And then the Lord imparts transcendental knowledge to Lord Brahma and also empowers him to be the immediate creator of material existence. And thus, all the planets and all the species of life are created by Brahma. And then Garbhodakshayi Vishnu expands himself as Kshirodakshayi Vishnu to live in a planet within this world called Svetadvip, on an ocean of milk. And that Kshirodakshayi Vishnu also enters into the heart of every living being as the Supersoul, Paramatma. And then that Kshirodakshayi Vishnu also becomes one of the Guna avatars. And Lord Chaitanya explains what are the Guna avatars. The Guna avatars are Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. The whole material world is conducted by three modes of material nature: Rajaguna, Tamaguna, Sattvaguna. And nothing is impersonal. Everything is being directed by a personality. In all of existence, even the impersonal Brahman is the energy of the person of Krishna. There is actually nothing impersonal anywhere. So the three modes of material nature, it is explained that Brahma is generally a living entity. A living entity, Lord Chaitanya explains, who is very pious, who performs great charity, who has done great yajna, and who also has much devotion. But his devotion is mixed with mundane piety. Such a person who is so highly qualified, the Supreme Personality of Godhead empowers him to take birth on the lotus flower as Brahma. And he empowers Brahma to create. Just like Lord Chaitanya says, when the sun enters into a jewel, it appears that light is coming out of the jewel. But actually it is a reflection from the light in the sun. In the same way, Lord Brahma appears to be the creator, but whatever energy he has to create is coming from Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya said that sometimes, on rare occasions where there is no living entity who is karmically and devotionally qualified to be Brahma, then Vishnu himself takes the position of Brahma. And then there is Lord Shiva. He is the Guna avatar. Brahma is in charge of Rajaguna, and Shiva is in charge of Tamaguna. And Lord Chaitanya said, Lord Shiva is not a Jivatma. And at the same time, he is not a personal expansion of the Paramatma or Krishna. He has his own tattva called Shiva Tattva. And he explains, just as milk, when there is a culture put into it, it becomes dahi or yogurt. And actually, yogurt is nothing but milk, but at the same time, it is different than milk. So similarly, Vishnu, the personality of Godhead, who is always pure and never touched by the modes of material nature, by his own free independent will, he enters into material existence and he mixes his own consciousness with the modes of material nature. Especially, he comes in contact with the modes of material nature. And therefore, he is no longer Vishnu Tattva, but he is Shiva Tattva. And he explains how Lord Shiva is the destroyer, the annihilator of all that exists within the material universe. And he's also the Lord of the material universe. And his consort Durga is his divine energy. But Lord Shiva and Brahma are both acting as servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are in charge, supervising the modes, and they are also influenced by the modes. And then Vishnu, Kshirodakshai Vishnu, personally enters into the universe to be the guna avatar for Sattva Guna. Pure Sattva, Shuddha Sattva, never touches the modes of passion or ignorance. And that Kshirodakshai Vishnu, when there is various disturbances within the universe, sometimes Brahma, Shiva, and the other devatas, they approach the shore of the ocean of milk and pray to Kshirodakshai Vishnu for shelter. And at that time, Kshirodakshai Vishnu incarnates in various wonderful ways, and they are called Lila avatars. And Lord Chaitanya explained these Lila avatars are innumerable. Narasimhadev, Ramchandra, Parasuram, Matsya avatar, Kurma avatar, Vamanadev, Hayagriva, Hamsa, Prishnigarabha. So many wonderful incarnations, Kalki. And Lord Chaitanya explains, actually each of these avatars have their own personal abode in the Paravyoma, the spiritual sky of Vaikuntha. And through the agency of Kshirodakshai Vishnu, they enter into this material world to perform their wonderful pastimes. All for the same purpose. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstapanaradaya sambhavami yuge yuge. To reestablish the principles of religion, to protect the devotees, and to annihilate the miscreants. Then Lord Chaitanya explained the Manvantaras. In every day of Brahma, there are 14 divisions called Manus. And in each of these divisions, one great empowered incarnation of the Lord called the Manvantara is in control of, what is the king supervising. And there are 14 Manus, and in one day of Brahma, there are 420 Manus. In 1 year of Brahma, there is 5,040 Manus. And in the lifetime of Brahma, there is 504,000 Manus in one universe. And there are millions and billions and trillions and quadrillions, unlimited universes. So how many Manus are there? How many avatars of the Lord are there? And this is all happening in one breath of Vishnu. And then he inhales and everything is finished. So these are the Manvantars. And then he explained the Yugavatars. Lord Chaitanya said, in every age the Lord comes in a very particular way in order to establish the recommended process, the only true process of religion for that age. In Satya Yuga, he comes in a beautiful white form, wearing a black antelope skin as clothing. He has 4 arms, and he is holding a danda and a water pot as a brahmachari. This beautiful form of the Lord appeared to Kardama Muni and taught him the process of meditation, which is the only way of achieving perfection in the age of Satya Yuga. Meditation on the beautiful form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in the Treta Yuga, the Yuga Avatar appears in a reddish form. And he has 4 arms. And he is holding a spoon for yajna and a ladle for the same purpose. And he teaches the process of sacrifice, of yajna. And in the age of Dwapara Yuga, the Supreme Lord appears in his beautiful blackish form of Krishna. And in that form he teaches worship of himself, the process of worship as the means of perfection. And then Lord Chaitanya said, in the age of Kali Yuga, the Yuga Avatar appears in a most beautiful golden form. And he comes with his associates to teach the only means by which we can achieve the ultimate perfection of life, which is the congregational chanting of the holy name.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to explain through so many scriptural references what is the Yuga Avatar in this age of Kali Yuga. Krishna Varnam Tvisa Krishnam Sangopanga Shaparashatam. That the Lord appears in this beautiful non-blackish golden form to teach, and he is worshipped in Kali Yuga through the congregational chanting of the holy names. And the same goal that was achieved in Satya Yuga through meditation, in Treta Yuga through yajna, in Dwapara Yuga through worship of the Lord, is achieved simply by chanting the holy names in the age of Kali Yuga. And he explained how this age of Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults. But there is only one good thing about this age of Kali Yuga. There is a benediction. That simply chanting the holy names of the Lord, one can achieve the perfection of liberation. And then Lord Chaitanya quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam that those who are very intelligent and saintly, they very much worship the age of Kali Yuga as the best of all ages. Because in this age of Kali Yuga, the Lord descends in this most beautiful golden form to give everyone without discrimination the opportunity to achieve perfection by chanting Krishna's holy name.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare.
Upon hearing this beautiful description of the Yuga Avatar for Kali Yuga, Sanatana Goswami was feeling ecstasy. And he said, "My Lord, you are saying that in Kali Yuga, the Lord appears in a beautiful golden form. And he's inducing everyone to congregationally chant the holy names of the Lord. Please tell me, how will I know who that Yuga Avatar is?" And Lord Chaitanya said, there is only one way of knowing, and that is through reference to Scripture. Vedavyas himself has given us the clear understanding. It is not a question of popular vote. It is not a question of displaying of mystic powers or potencies. The Scriptures explain it in this way. Actually, Lord Chaitanya said, essentially there is the characteristics, the personal characteristics, and the marginal characteristics. The primary characteristics in Swayam, he said, and Tatashta. Through the personal form of the Lord, as described in the Scripture, the nature of the Lord, and through the activities he performs, the Scriptures describe who is an avatar of God. And then Sanatana Goswami said, like that. So the scripture says he has a beautiful golden complexion, and he's always congregationally chanting the holy names. So can you tell me who this is? And Lord Chaitanya became silent. And he said, now I will describe the next type of avatars, the Shaktavesh avatars. Shaktavesh avatars is when the Lord empowers his jivas or other superior souls with his divine potencies for particular purposes. And he explained some examples of Shaktavesh avatars. The Kumaras were specially empowered to deliver knowledge. Narada Muni was especially empowered by the Lord to deliver bhakti. Prithu Maharaj was especially empowered to demonstrate the power of kingly rule. Parasaram was specially empowered as a Shakti avatar to kill the demons. And also, a living entity, sometimes in preaching Krishna consciousness, is divinely empowered to spread the glories of the Lord's holy names. Srila Prabhupada ki! After describing these various categories of avatars, Lord Chaitanya began to explain Krishna, who is the source, the fountainhead of all incarnations, of all expansions. He is the ultimate cause of all causes. And he explained how Krishna, in the spiritual world of Goloka Vrindavan, he has three primary ages: Balya, Poganda, and Kaishor. As a tiny little child, where he killed Putana and performed so many other wonderful pastimes, and as a young boy, where he herds his cows and calves and plays, and as a newly fresh youth, Kaishor. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, of these three beautiful ages, Kaishor is the sweetest, because it is in this age that he performs the most intimate, wonderful pastimes of conjugal love with the damsels of Vrindavan or the gopis. And how when the Lord enters into this material world to perform these pastimes, it is all done under the power of his internal potency. And he began to explain what is the meaning of Nitya Lila. That there are so many universes, countless universes within creation. And there is always some place within the cosmic manifestation that Lord is performing each and every one of his pastimes. Just as when Krishna kills Putana, as soon as he finishes killing Putana in this universe, immediately he starts killing Putana in another universe. And then Krishna kills Trinavarta in this universe. As soon as he finishes killing Trinavarta, immediately he's killing in another universe. So there's always somewhere within the cosmic manifestation where every single pastime of Krishna is taking place. This is the inconceivable transcendental power of Krishna, Nitya Lila. And Lord Chaitanya used the example of the zodiac, that just as the sun is always rising somewhere, and the sun is always setting somewhere. At any given time of the day, the sun is rising someplace. Is that correct? Right now, the sun is rising somewhere in the world. And as soon as it finishes rising there, it's rising somewhere else. And similarly, it's always noon somewhere. We divide by time and we have our man-made calculations of time, but actually, as far as the sun's motions, they are always repeating somewhere within this earth. In the same way, as soon as Krishna finishes one of his wonderful pastimes, he immediately performs that in another universe, in another universe, in another universe. And this is the nature of Krishna's wonderful mercy upon this world. And the inconceivable qualities of Krishna are so great. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that the greatest, most brilliant scientists, if they all come together, and if somehow or other they succeed to count every atomic particle in the entire universe, and add to that every grain of sand in the universe, and add to that every planet and star in the sky, and add to that every snowflake that falls anywhere. Even if the scientists can calculate all those together, they can never calculate the qualities of Krishna. They can never even calculate the number of pastimes Krishna performs, or the extent of his beauty and opulence. Bhagavan Sri Krishna ki! And all of those pastimes, all of those characteristics, all of those qualities and opulences are within the two syllables, Krishna, the holy name. And when we learn to chant offenselessly and purely, Krishna reveals, according to our little infinitesimal extent to understand, he reveals his intimate opulence. So let us always take shelter of the holy name.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
The glories of Krishna, even Brahma cannot understand. Lord Chaitanya told Srila Sanatana Goswami that one time Brahma, after the killing of Aghasura, he wanted to see who this cowherd boy is. He was just very young. I believe it was in his Gaur Lila when he killed Aghasura. So Brahma stole the calves and the gopas for 1 full year by earthly calculation. And Krishna, just to display his wonderful opulence, he expanded himself as all the cowherd boys and all the calves. And when Brahma came back down, he looked and he saw innumerable gopas, countless gopas. Brahma himself could not count all the gopas. And he saw each gopa had unlimited cows. Even Brahma couldn't count the calves of one gopa. There were millions and billions and quadrillions of calves for each gopa. And there was unlimited gopas. And there were unlimited canes and sticks and flutes. And then he saw each one of those gopas and each one of those calves turn into a form of Narayan. There were innumerable forms of Narayan. And he saw being worshipped were innumerable Brahmas worshipping Narayan. And so many other demigods and other saintly persons, countless for each Narayan. And then he saw it all entered into the body of Krishna. And he was just standing there like a little boy with some food in his hand, thinking, where is my cow? Where is my calves? Where is my friends? And Brahma realized that Krishna is inconceivable. He is transcendentally the supreme power of all powers. And on another occasion, Lord Brahma, on that occasion he visited Vrindavan. On another occasion, little later, he came to visit Krishna in Dwarka. Lord Chaitanya tells us, Brahma came to Krishna's gatekeeper and said, please tell Krishna that Brahma wants to see him. And Krishna told the gatekeeper, ask him, which Brahma? What is his name? And the gatekeeper said, Krishna wants to know which Brahma. What is your name? And he said, I am the four-headed Brahma, the father of the 4 Kumaras. He said, all right, you come in. So he came in, And Krishna asked him, first he bowed down, and Krishna asked him, how are you? How is the affairs in the universe? And Brahma said, these things I will discuss with you, but first I have a question. You asked me which Brahma? Is there another Brahma? Krishna closed his eyes and began to meditate. In his meditation, he called for some other Brahmas. And within an instant, so many Brahmas came. Some had 8 heads. Some had 10 heads. Some had 20 heads. Some had 100 heads. Some had 1,000 heads. Some of these Brahmas had 10,000 heads. Some had 100,000, 1,00,000 of heads. Some had 1,000,000 heads. There were even many, many innumerable Brahmas with 10 million heads. You may think, how is this possible? You cannot even take care of one head. So how will you understand how it's possible? But it is possible. Krishna could create you with one head, he can create someone with 10 million heads. And then he saw people with hundreds of millions of heads. And all of them came to bow down to Krishna. And all at once, by the inconceivable arrangement of the Lord, all these innumerable crowns on the heads all simultaneously touched Krishna's feet. And as they touched Krishna's feet, all the crowns of these billions and trillions of innumerable helmets, they all crashed into each other. And as they crashed, they made beautiful sounds of prayers glorifying the lotus feet of Krishna. Bhagavan Shri Krishna ki! And although our little 4-headed Brahma, he saw all these millions and millions of Brahmas, every one of those Brahmas there thought that he was the only Brahma who had come to see Krishna. None of them understood that there was any other Brahmas but themselves. And then Krishna asked all of them, are you happy? That's what he asked them. Are you happy? And how is your service in your particular universes? Is there any trouble from demons? And all the Brahmas thought that they were the only ones talking, but all of them together said the same thing in unison. They all said, we are happy. That there is no disturbance because by your grace you have removed all the demons. And then Lord Krishna told them they could all go back to their abodes. And then they all left. And then little Brahma, who felt like Lord Chaitanya said, he felt like a rabbit in a herd of elephants. He asked, what is this I have just seen? And Krishna said, your universe is very small. Your universe is only 4 billion miles. But according to the size of the universe, the Brahma has more heads. And you have the smallest universe, so you only have 4 heads. But please understand, what is the glory of my creation? And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, although there are such innumerable universes within the creation, the whole material cosmos is only 1/4 of Krishna's entire creation. Beyond the Viraja river, when we enter into the spiritual sky or the Paravyoma, that is the 3/4 of material existence. And Lord Chaitanya explained, although Vrindavan, there are innumerable Vaikuntha planets, And each of the Vaikuntha planets is so large and so opulent, no one can calculate. And he said in Goloka Vrindavan, although it is only 16 kroshas or 32 miles by worldly calculations, it appears that way. He said all the Vaikunthas can fit in one little corner of Goloka Vrindavan. Then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to explain Devi Dham, the material existence, and Mahesh Dham, the abode of Shiva, and then Hari Dham, the Vaikunthas, and then Goloka Dham, or the abode of Krishna, in wonderful ways. And after explaining the beauty of Krishna's abode, Lord Chaitanya spoke in great length about the beauty and opulence of Krishna. He explained how Krishna's beauty is the source and essence of everything attractive within existence. Krishna explains in Gita, whatever appears charming or beautiful within all of creation, it is only an insignificant, infinitesimal reflection of a spark of my beauty. Sometimes a man becomes mad after the beauty of a woman, or a woman becomes mad after the beauty of a man, or sometimes we become mad after a painting or a piece of furniture or some natural sitting or some poetry, or we become mad after some crazy show on the television, or we go mad after some cricket star or some movie star. People go mad after so many attractive features of this world. But they are all temporary, perverted reflections of one infinitesimal spark of Krishna's beauty. So the goal of life is to become ultimately mad for Krishna. He is all attractive. The name Krishna means all attractive. Everything we hope to achieve happiness through is fully contained within Krishna. So why should we try to find happiness anywhere else? Why should we continue chasing after the mirages, the perverted reflections of Krishna's external energy? Why not merge our hearts, one-pointed devotion in the source of all pleasure, Krishna, by sincerely chanting His holy name?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Lord Chaitanya explained how the beauty of Krishna would completely conquer the hearts and the minds of all of the devotees in Vrindavan. How the beauty of Krishna would make the river Jamuna change its course. How the beauty of Krishna attracted the ultimate surrender of the gopis to his loving service. And how sweet that beauty is. He said, the ultimate sweetness is the beautiful body of Krishna. But sweeter than his body is his face. And the sweetest part of his face is his smile. Therefore, Krishna is sweet, sweeter, and sweetest. When he is pleased with you and he smiles upon you, then you become very happy. You become merged, that the qualities of Krishna's transcendental opulence of beauty is like an unlimited, fathomless ocean. And if somehow or other we become touched by one particle of a drop of that ocean, we live in ecstatic, mad love forever. Lord Chaitanya explained the process by which we become attracted by the infinite beauty of Krishna. And that is devotional service. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yashtasmi tattvata. There is no other way. It is only through devotion. Not through mental speculation, not through charity, not through piety, not through worship of the various gods, not through perfecting the various yogic processes of controlling the senses and mind. It is only by pleasing Krishna and getting his mercy, by serving him and serving his devotees, that Krishna reveals that ultimate beauty to us. And Lord Chaitanya explained in great length the science of bhakti. He described the nature of various levels of devotees as well. He said there are 3 types of devotees. There is the Kanishta Bhakta, there is the Madhyam Bhakta, and there is the Uttam Bhakta. The Uttam Bhakta, the highest level, he has so much love for Krishna that Krishna reveals himself to that devotee in everything. Wherever he looks, whatever he hears, whatever he tastes, he simply remembers Krishna. And therefore such a person cannot make any offense to anyone, because he's dealing with everyone as Krishna's part and parcel. And he's seeing the form of Krishna, the energy of Krishna. He's seeing Krishna manifesting everywhere. And the Madhyam Bhakta, he sees that Krishna is in the temple and he worships him. He sees the senior great Vaishnavas as worshipable as Krishna and tries to serve them and inquires submissively to get knowledge from them. And those who are on an equal status, he makes very dear and intimate, loving friendship with them. And for those devotees who are less advanced, and for those who are not devotees at all, the innocent, he is very compassionate to them. He always tries to serve them by uplifting them, encouraging them. And for those who are outright atheistic and antagonistic and offensive to Krishna, he avoids them. And the Kanishta Bhakta, the Kanishta Adhikari, is one who he comes and offers his worship to Krishna in the temple, whether it be at home or whether it be in the mandir. But he does not understand the value of serving the devotees. He does not understand the value of hearing from the devotees. And therefore he is considered a neophyte.